So here comes Peter, and he's saying, listen, since all of these things are thus to be dissolved, what sort of people ought you to be in lives of holiness and godliness, waiting for and hastening the coming of the day of God, because of which the heavens will be set on fire and dissolved, and the heavenly bodies will melt as they burn. But according to his promise, we are waiting for new heavens and a new earth in which righteousness dwells. Well, the Christian faith is deeply, deeply eschatological. Not scatological, eschatological, which means eschatology, the study of end times, looking forward to things yet to come, the end of all things, the end of days, looking forward to it in a sense, studying it, wondering, studying. And yet, there are myriad convictions on how it's all going to go down. In fact, there are so many ideas of how it's all going to go down that I'm thinking at the end of all things, God's going to do something that totally surprises everybody, so that nobody can go, I told you so. I don't know. There are a lot of convictions as to what will actually happen at the parousia, or at the coming of the Lord. I mean, will there be a rapture? Will there not be a rapture? Christendom is divided on that doctrine. Once does he come down to earth, or does he come halfway down, then back up again and down again? Will it just be a one-time thing? Will the earth be destroyed in a final act of God's wrath? Or does he have some other plan? Maybe both. Or is heaven beyond Jupiter, or beyond the stars? Or is it in some other dimension that we just don't see? Is Christianity, is it full of close-handed things and open-handed things? I think it is. There are some things that are close-handed. Things like, did Jesus create the world? Did God create the world? Yes. Close-handed. How did God create the world? Open-handed. Is Jesus coming back again? Yes. Close-handed. How? When? Open-handed. We don't have to be argumentative about these things. We can discuss, we can agree to disagree, we can have our views, but we don't have to fight. I mean, Christians are so known for fighting about the end times. We all agree we're living in the end times. We see the headlines and we feel the pulsation of Jesus getting closer. We get that. But some things are open-handed. You don't have to fight over stuff. What does seem absolutely clear is that our eschatological perspective, it should have an impact on how we live right here, right now. What does it mean, hasten the day of the Lord? How can we hasten the day of the Lord? How can we make it happen sooner? Can we make it happen sooner? That's what it says. We could hasten the day. I've looked at a number of things, and I think there are 3 things at least I know, but that I can do personally to hasten the day of the Lord. 1, it's to fulfill the Great Commission. Jesus said, till the world is preached to the whole world, the gospel, the good news, taken to the whole world. And then his coming. Well, so let's fulfill the Great Commission. Let's be spreading the gospel to everybody and everywhere. So that's one thing. 2, he says he's coming for a pure bride. He talks about purifying the bride. The bride is the church. So if I'm about trying to purify the bride, I'll do my part to hasten the day of the Lord. And 3, I think that what's happening in Israel today is a very important, significant thing in regards to the coming of the Lord. Jesus said to the Jewish people, you will not see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. For the longest time, like 1800 years, there was no Jewish people in Israel saying, blessed are you who come in the name of the Lord, comes in the name of the Lord. Now there are. Now there's like upwards of 20,000 Jewish believers in Yeshua saying, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. He's returning to the Mount of Olives. He's returning to Jerusalem, not Vancouver, not Washington, not anywhere else. So I think I can hasten the day of the Lord by blessing what God is doing in Israel, because it seems, according to Romans, that there will be a great revival in the end of time just before Jesus returns. His people will turn back to him. So I can hasten the day of the Lord by fulfilling the Great Commission, purifying the bride, blessing Israel in a practical way. Well, the question might be asked, well, what about all these political agendas? Well, what would Jesus do? Would Jesus sign political agreements? Would Jesus be doing this, that, the other thing? We have to ask this question, sure. Some Christians might say, global warming and climate control, being environmentally friendly, that is important. And others say it's not important because Jesus is coming back, he'll take care of it all. Others say, no, it is actually an act of worship. Again, do we have to argue about this stuff, or just open-handed, closed-handed stuff? But the main thing is to live holy lives, as Peter said, and godly lives. C.S. Lewis in 1945, he writes very beautifully and movingly about the very real physicality of heaven, that it's a real place in the Great Divorce. And he says a concrete understanding of heaven down here could mean a greater desire to engage in environmental concerns for the future, etc., of the planet, because you're considering what the future is going to hold. Certainly, how we think about heaven should affect how we think about life here and now. As Russell Crowe in the movie Gladiator said, what we do down here echoes in eternity. Peter says, how then should we live? Holy lives with eternity in mind. Stephen Covey, he wrote a book called 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, or Highly Effective People. He said in one chapter, begin with the end in mind. So if you begin your day today with the end in mind, that you want to glorify God at the end of the day, or you go further and say, I'm beginning my life today with the end in mind that I will be standing before him one day and I'll see him face to face. You begin with that in mind, it will affect how you live right here, right now, and that is what Peter's encouraging us to do. Live with eternity in mind.